Hey guys, it's Dan with Kick55 Fitness. Today we're doing our nutrition talks, specifically on ketogenic dieting, why it works, but why you may hate your life while you're doing it. Now, personally, I have a master's in nutrition from the University of Tampa. I've also tried all these fad diets, so I feel pretty confident that I can explain to you why we do these, why they help, or why they don't work in the long term. Remember, if you like our videos, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also click the push notification button so you can stay up to date with all our new nutrition talks and our current workouts. All right, so today we are talking about ketogenic diet, why it works, but why you may hate your life while going through it. So let's talk from the start. What is ketogenic diet? It is the idea of, instead of having a typical diet that most of us have of moderate carbs, moderate fat, moderate protein, we are really cutting out on those carbs. We are only going about 5 to 10% of our daily caloric intake is going to be carbohydrates, while the majority of what we are eating are going to be high fats, about 70 to 80%. And then we're going to have about 20 to 25% of proteins. Now, typically, why is this going to matter? Why is this going to help us? Okay, the reason that we're talking about all these together, when it comes to ketogenic dieting, it really does work. It will burn fat, it will make you feel better, but it takes time. Our body is so conditioned to burn sugar, to use our pancreas to secrete insulin, to burn glucose as our primary energy fuel source. And that's what we're talking about. That's the reason we eat in the first place, so we have energy, right? That's what all this comes down to. With carbohydrates, we have ATP phosphase, and that is kind of how we are able to go throughout to burn sugar primarily. In ketogenic dieting, what we want to do is burn fat primarily. And that is how we get leaner, cutter, skinnier, stronger, right? However, the real problem is we are so conditioned to eating carbs throughout our day that when you start going to high fat and no carbs, your brain is not going to like you. Your body's not going to like you. Your emotions are not going to be regulated anymore because we're so used to having that sugar high that now when we get rid of it, our body does not know what to do with it. The typical best way to do ketogenic dieting is you're going to want, again, like I said, we're focusing on high fat diets because we need to burn fat as our primary fuel source. And what that means is our body needs to go into ketosis, which means it is burning ketones, which comes from lipids, which is another word for fat, fancy scientific word for fat. That's what we're burning is our ketones. It takes about 2 weeks for us to get into ketosis. So for those first 2 weeks before your body is now adapted, you will be very, very miserable, unfortunately. I've tried this diet myself, and I'm typically someone who loves to start their morning with fruits and vegetables. But fruits and vegetables are all sugar. So we're talking about glucose, we're talking about fructose. Those are the simple sugars. Sucrose is a disaccharide that's more of a complex sugar. Then we also have starches, which are like potatoes. Those go in the carbohydrate groups as well. So unfortunately, everything that we love to eat typically throughout our day, right? All the processed food, all the fruits, all the candy, all the snacks, pretzels, I love chips, right? We can't eat any of those. So we are restricting a lot in our diet. And sometimes when we get too restrictive, right, we're going to end up fighting ourselves later on because it's very difficult to sustain long term. Typically with any type of diet, whether it be keto, paleo, anything it is that you do, it's very hard to sustain these long term. That's why the way I like to look at nutrition and eating in general is we have to make it a lifestyle choice. We have to be comfortable in our lives at this is the things that I like to eat that are healthy for me, and I have to keep moving, right? It's not just nutrition, it's not just working out. It's the combination of the two of them, which is really what keeps us in our great shape. There's an old saying, abs are made in the kitchen, not in the gym. And technically that is true. However, it's still important to keep our core strong in the gym so we don't have spine pain later on in our life. So when we go back to talking about why ketogenic dieting works, the idea is I'm no longer burning sugar, right? My body's been conditioned probably since I was a very, very young kid to burn sugar. And when we're burning sugar, what happens is our body is storing the fat, right? Because the fat's got to go somewhere. So everyone thinks, oh, fat's the enemies, right? Oh, we don't want a lot of fat in our diet because that's how we're going to gain weight. Really, the way that works is that it's the combination of the carbohydrates and the fats together that make us gain the weight. Because our body burns the carbs, it stores the fat. So if we reverse that motion where we get to ketogenic, which again takes about 2 weeks to get into ketosis, our body is now burning fat as its primary fuel source. No longer needs carbs, so it can store the 5 to 10% of carbs that we have, and that's nothing to us. That's not going to bother us, that's not going to affect us either way. However, 5 to 10% of carbohydrates is not a lot, as you guys can see. And that could be 1 apple a day, could spike your insulin, right? That could really get you to your percentage-wise. One, vegetable, if you have some candy throughout the night because you like to snack, and that happens, that is probably going to be the extent of our carbs. So what is it that we should be eating throughout our day with a ketogenic diet? When I was doing this, I started my day every day, eggs and bacon, high fat, moderate protein, no carbs, right? Later on throughout the day, we're eating a lot of meat, a lot of lean meat, steak, burgers, chicken, right? Nothing that has anything to do with any of the carbohydrates. So you have to get comfortable eating a lot of heavy density foods, right? The one thing that I've seen throughout our ketogenic dieting that could be a little negatively impacted on our body is our cholesterol. Your cholesterol will go up. There's HDL and there's LDL, high density lipoprotein, low density lipoprotein. The LDLs are usually the healthy fats, and that's what we're looking for. So when you hear someone say healthy fat, like avocado, that is kind of what we're looking to be able to get in our body. But we will have a little bit of an increase in our cholesterol with a ketogenic diet. However, the benefits are really good because we're going to have decrease in our blood pressure, right? We're going to have decrease in our sugar output. So our pancreas is going to be able to fire better. However, if we are too conditioned throughout a long period of time, this is why dieting is a short amount of period of time, if we stop eating carbs altogether, let's say for the rest of our lives, and we're only eating fats, eventually our pancreas will not know how to secrete the hormones that it now needs to secrete once we go back into carbohydrates, and then we could really find ourselves having some issues later on in life. Remember, a lot of high sugar, right, and an overactive pancreas causes diabetes later on in our lives. Diabetes leads to heart disease. That's the biggest thing that you got to focus on. Anytime, you can talk to your grandparents about this too. Most people over 60 are on some type of diabetic medication, type 2 diabetes. If you're a type 1, that's another conversation for another day, right? However, most people over that age, they're going to be in some type of type 2 diabetes, which will lead to heart disease later in life. So when you see someone who's 70, 80, 90 years old having multiple heart attacks or having a heart surgery, right? Having a bypass, having a new aorta put in, that's because for so long, your body has now been storing those fats, and our arteries now have picked up all that fat, and the blood flow isn't going through as well. So there's a couple different ways that we can kind of get into what we're looking for. Realistically, we have to ask ourselves, what is our why? Why are we dieting in the first place? Are we dieting because I saw it was a fad and I like to follow fads and I thought it was cool? Am I really unhappy with the way that my body looks when I look at myself in the mirror and I want to cut down quick? Am I just trying to feel better mentally and I think maybe, hey, I got to try something else because what I'm doing isn't working? So the first thing that is always going to be important when you pick any diet, whatever it is, we're just talking about keto today, but when you pick any diet, you have to understand to yourself why you're doing this. And your why is going to be different than my why. So that's super important as well, because what works for me is not going to work for you, which is not going to work for somebody else. We're all individuals and we got to cater to our bodies that way as well. It's not a one-size-fits-all type deal. So let's go back into how much we're going to get in our proteins as well. When it comes to protein, there's different ways to do that. And now, because we live in the 21st century, we are very fortunate that they have protein shakes, right? So we don't just have to eat steak all day long or chicken all day long or salmon, which are 3 of my favorite things to eat. Very high in protein, very healthy for you in the long run. But you can get a protein shake. You can get powders now that go into other type of smoothies or they have bars as well, Quest bars, right? Any kind of food that you like that if you just want to have a quick on-the-go kind of thing, that works out really well too. But protein is going to be super important because we need protein to continue to build our muscle. The real trick in losing fat is we need stronger muscles. Everyone thinks if I do long-term cardio running, I'm going to lose a lot of fat. But what ends up happening is you're actually losing muscle and fat. So your body's not going to look the way that you really want it to look. If you really want to lose fat, you need to have big, strong muscles. You got to have big, strong legs, because that's where all the testosterone is, and that's what helps us lose weight, right? The more our leg, the bigger our quads and our glutes are, which are the two biggest muscle groups in our body at the moment, until science finds something else, that is what we need to be able to use. So the stronger your legs are, which is why we love lower body exercises, so follow me for my lower body blaster if you get the chance, that is why we are going to want to be able to do that. However, that being said, the last thing that we need to talk about when it comes to ketogenic dieting is that you cannot expect that this is going to last forever. It is too difficult to maintain a ketogenic diet throughout long term. The most I've seen in studies are typically 2 to 3 months. And after that, what ends up happening? We start eating our carbs again, and all that progress we made, we lost it all. So like I said, dieting will work, but we got to make a lifestyle change instead, and that starts in the brain. Follow me for more. Thank you guys for attending my talk today on ketogenic dieting, why it works, but why you may hate it. Remember, if you like our videos, you can hit the thumbs up button, click and subscribe to us on YouTube, and click the push notifications so you can stay up to date with all our current nutrition talks and workouts. Remember, you can also follow us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram for all our current workouts and nutrition talks. And if you really like talking and working with me, go follow my lower body blast. It's about 23 minutes, and it will kill you.
Remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on push notifications so you know when our next workout posts.